Okay, it's time to review the last movie in the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi. Now, in case you don't know, I am reviewing every single Star Wars movie this year, starting with A New Hope, leading up to Rogue One in December. So, I'm now on Return of the Jedi, and this is the last movie in the original trilogy, so it has to be good. And is it good? Yes, it's good, but it's not great. See, it's the only movie in the original trilogy I have huge problems with. Now, the movie opens up with a sweet introduction to Darth Vader going into the Death Star, and he tells a very frightened trooper that the Emperor is going to show up, and he starts to get all scared and stuff, and he's all like, "We shall double our efforts." It's really hard to say that fast. And anyways, we finally get a look at Jabba the Hutt because on Tatooine, C-3PO and R2-D2 are trying to rescue Han Solo after he got frozen in carbonite at the end of Empire Strikes Back. And they end up having to work for Jabba, so that's when a bounty hunter comes in with Chewbacca, and the bounty hunter sells Chewbacca to Jabba the Hutt, and then the bounty hunter unfreezes Han Solo, gets him out of the carbonite, and then the bounty hunter takes off his mask, revealing it to be Princess Leia. And it's sort of like a real cute moment right there where you're like, "Aw, Han and Leia are back together." But then Jabba shows up, and he puts Leia in a slaved bikini outfit. Slave Leia. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Anyways, Luke comes in, but he's a completely different Luke. See, this is a badass Luke. Like, he tries using the Jedi mind trick on Jabba the Hutt, and he tries to get him to give Leia, Han, 3PO, Chewie, and R2 back. But then he ends up in this little pit where there's a massive Rancor, and it's really big and stop-motion-y. But then Luke eventually kills the Rancor, and there's this big fat guy who, for some reason, is very upset that the Rancor dies. Anyways, Luke gets captured, and that's when they're all forced to jump into the Sarlacc pit. And Lando Calrissian is shown to be in disguise as a guard there, and R2, who is already on top of things, Luke nods to R2, and R2 pops the lightsaber right out. Luke grabs the lightsaber, and he takes out all the guys, and Leia strangles Jabba the Hutt, and they eventually get Han, and they move on. And that's the opening scene for Return of the Jedi. They're trying to rescue Han Solo. And they do. Anyways, Luke goes back to the Dagobah system so he can learn more about the Force for Yoda. But then Yoda is dying, and I feel like it's very rushed. Like, Yoda's death could have been... I liked how they're killing off Yoda and stuff, but they're not doing it in a very good way. Like, it's too rushed. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up, and he tells Luke that Princess Leia is his sister. And this shocks Luke because they kissed in Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Pretty awkward when you think about it. That they kissed in Empire. Anyways, they go back to the Rebel base, and Admiral Akbar is telling them that they need to go to Endor because there's a shield generator there, and they have to take the shield down so they can go attack the new Death Star that Vader has put together. And while they're there, they meet the Ewoks. Yeah, the Ewoks. Alright, George Lucas created the Ewoks for a good reason. He thought, oh, kids will think they're cute. But they're not cute. They're annoying. Like, how are Ewoks able to take out the stormtroopers with rocks and sticks? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, so then the Ewoks see C-3PO as some sort of god, and that's when they try roasting Han, Chewie, and Luke in fire, and then Leia shows up and her hair is braided. Yeah, the Ewoks braided Leia's hair. Okay, this movie's really starting to get ridiculous. So Luke uses the Force to trick the Ewoks into thinking C-3PO has some sort of magic, and they let them go. And then Luke hands himself in to Vader because he knows there's good in Vader, and he wants to let Vader out of there to become Anakin again. And this is the best part of the movie. It's the father and son love between Luke and Vader. It's very well put together. So while Luke goes to the Death Star to face the Emperor, all the other rebels and Ewoks fight against the Stormtroopers, while the Millennium Falcon and the X-Wings, they all go to the Death Star, try to take it out once and for all, end the Empire for good. And the Emperor is trying to seduce Luke to the dark side by getting him angry and angry, and Luke, he just snaps. He like grabs his lightsaber and goes head to head with Vader, and it's a real intense lightsaber battle. In fact, it used to be my favorite lightsaber battle. We'll get to my favorite one once I talk about Force Awakens. So, meanwhile, on planet Endor, while all the rebels and the Ewoks are fighting the Stormtroopers, Han and Leia say the exact same thing they said in Emperor. I love you, I know, only in reverse, which is very clever. And they eventually take the shield out, and that's when they go in and they attack the Death Star. And then, Vader and Luke are still fighting, and that's when Luke snaps because Vader is telling him that he can turn Leia to the dark side. And then Luke just keeps going at him, and he cuts Vader's hand off. And once he sees that he's cut Vader's hand off, he realizes what he's done. And he's all like, oh no, I'm becoming Vader, I shouldn't do this. So he drops his lightsaber and says to the Emperor, I'm sorry, but you failed. I'm a Jedi, like my father before me. And then the Emperor just, he like zaps Luke. And that's scary. That is real intense for a Star Wars movie. And then Vader, inside, he realizes something isn't right. So he picks the Emperor up and he throws him over the balcony, and the Emperor dies. So anyways, the Death Star is about to blow up because the rebels took it out. And that's when Vader is dying in Luke's very arms. But then Luke takes the mask off of Darth Vader to look at him face to face for the first time. And then on planet Endor, everyone's celebrating the fall of the Empire. And then Luke burns Vader's body because he wants it to be like a funeral for him. And everybody's celebrating, and there's like celebration going on and stuff, and it ends. That's the end of the original Star Wars trilogy. Now, what do I think of Return of the Jedi? Okay, now, it's not a perfect movie. Like, it's kind of a disappointment compared to the first two movies. Now, I really do enjoy the relationship between Vader and Luke. I love how Han and Leia's relationship is expanded even more. I like how some of the special effects are still good, but the Ewoks thing is a little bit silly, and there are a few problems there and there. So I'm gonna give Return of the Jedi a B+. Yeah, pretty good rating. It's a pretty good film. Alright, so there we go. I have now reviewed the entire original Star Wars trilogy. So come back next month as I start to review the prequels. Yeah, those are going to be fun.